Biden was doing. Like, Joe is clearly more involved than that.
Yep.
What's like the
And how do
dirtiest
you know?
stuff he was doing? Do you have the data?
On
The quotes or like any specific that we have like documented proof of or extreme amounts of evidence?
Well, I guess I don't know, like, policy, like which policies arose from it. I just mean like the text. I don't know if there's anything that originates actually from Joe, but it's just like the text that Tim referenced earlier of Hunter saying.
I guess the testimony proved that Joe Biden lied about something. I'm not 100% sure.
Let's jump to this next story we got from the Post to Millennial. I love this. We have testimony that Joe Biden is on the phone with Hunter Biden and his associates at the same time. We have testimony from one of Hunter's
God, Tim is
associates
so fucking loud.
that Joe Biden is getting kickbacks. And then
CNN claims Hunter Biden was selling the illusion of access to his father to overseas business associates, which, by the way, is the most normal thing ever. The kids of senators, this is like an everyday thing. This is rather unremarkable.
CNN says Hunter Biden was selling the illusion of access because Joe was on the phone, but Joe wasn't talking shop. Does he need to? Seriously, if they're sharing bank accounts, sharing email addresses, if Joe Biden is taking his son's salary, it's like the mafia. It's like the guy.
Okay, so let me introduce this a little bit. So Tim Pool has been incredibly dedicated and interested in tying Hunter Biden's business dealings with Joe Biden. Unfortunately, there hasn't really been any tangible evidence to any of this. It's mostly been, they're like related and once had a conversation at dinner about what Hunter was up to last week at work. So he's obviously, Joe Biden is obviously corrupt or has been corrupted by the business dealings of Hunter Biden. When, again, I've yet to see anything that actually links Joe Biden, just stuff that's like, all right, I guess that's maybe. If you could prove it, I'd maybe be a bit more interested. But it seems like every time the plane is about to take off, they bail out at the last second. So, again, we'll see if this goes anywhere. I kind of tend to expect it won't.
Guy's talking, negotiating a deal with the other guy, and he's like, listen, the Don says he wants you to do this or else. And then they're like, oh, I'm not going to do anything. And then all of a sudden the Don walks in the front.
We're not going to do voices for everybody? You're not going to do like you got to do like the Don says you need to do this, man. Or forget about it. Maybe your restaurant gets burglarized. You need to do insurance payment. The Don can provide this. And there's like the little mob guy who's all like, yeah, see, you got to speak to the Don. You got to pay us some money to make sure that your company's safe. She capiche or whatever. Come on, man, do the voices. Come on.
And goes, how's you guys doing? And they're like, oh, everything's good, man. We're doing everything.
We're back to doing voices again. Can we do voices or not do voices? Jesus Christ. Can I get one or the other?
Thing you ask, and they run away. See, they're trying to make this claim that makes literally no sense. The moment you put Joe Biden on the phone, it's a whip crack. The vice president is in the room.
Well,
don't you forget it.
So I hear your point and I agree with it, but also that claim is just not true. I mean, this is this was in the New York Post the other week of when apparently there's a text from.
Is this person gonna what's it called? Push? I can't tell if he's pushing back or if he's validating Tim here.
From one of the Burisma executives, and he says to Hunter, "Can you ring your dad?" ? And then Hunter placed him on speakerphone, and sorry, this was not a text. This must have been a call. But Hunter goes on speakerphone with Joe Biden and says, "These guys, quote, need our support." So I mean, he wasn't just selling the illusion of access. He was putting these guys on speakerphone with his dad and telling his dad we need to help them. So
well, I guess the question then would be, did Joe Biden or somebody in the administration change their position based on that relationship? That's kind of the next step, right? It's like, oh, they were on a phone call together. All right. Was there a change in policy? They always talk about that one. I think it's like a lawyer or somebody that was investigating Burisma or whatever. And they always talk about, they told him to fire the prosecutor. That's what it was. But that was in line with American foreign policy. So there wasn't like we as the country, as the Americans of the administration had already come to that conclusion. So it didn't really have anything to do with Joe or Hunter Biden. Okay.
Where is that from? That you just
That's from New York Post.
Actually, we'll hold on to
Yes,
this.
I think it's fair to say that CNN is desperately lying. And
What does the CNN article look like? I'm actually curious to see how they frame that, other than Post.
Ooh, actually, I have the CNN article right here. Former business partner says Hunter Biden sold illusion of access to Joe Biden, source says. Devin Archer told the House Oversight Committee on Monday that his former business partner, Hunter Biden, was selling the illusion of access to his father, according to a source familiar with the closed-door interview, the latest development in the Republican-led congressional investigations into the president's son. The source also reiterated that Archer provided no evidence connecting President Joe Biden to any of his son's foreign business dealings. After the interview concluded, a second source told CNN that Archer did affirm to the committee that Hunter Biden was selling the, quote, illusion of access to his father, but later clarified that the president's son was actually selling the illusion of access to Washington, D.C., and knowledge of how it worked, right? Republicans and Democrats have both sought to highlight portions of Archer's hours-long testimony in a way that fits their competing narratives. Matthew Schwartz, managing partner of Bios Schiller Flexner LLP, and counsel to Archer, acknowledged both sides are claiming victory following Mr. Archer's voluntary interview today. But all Devin Archer did was exactly what we said he would: show up and answer questions. Answer the questions put to him honestly and completely. Mr. Archer shared the truth with the committee, and we will leave to them and others to decide what to do with it. Representative Dan Goldman, a Democrat on the panel who sat through the portion of Archer's interview where he was questioned about Republicans, also said there were a lack of evidence connecting the president and his son's foreign dealings. Archer's testimony came as House Republicans. Goldman said that it was kind of preposterous premise to think that a father should not say hello to the people that a son is at dinner with, and that is literally all the evidence is. It was done. Yeah, can I see like some of the evidence? Let's see. Devin Archer's testimony. Ooh, interesting. Why did Joe Biden lie to the American people about, Devin Archer testified that the value of adding Hunter Biden to Burisma board was the brand and confirmed that the Vice President Joe Biden was the brand. Yeah, no shit. Archer admitted that the Burisma, quote, would have gone out of business if its brand had not been attached to it. Okay. So, yeah, sure. December 2015, Zachevsky, owner of Burisma, and whoever, an executive Burisma, placed constant pressure on Hunter Biden to get help from constant pressure, but it doesn't really sound like if they placed constant pressure, it doesn't seem like it paid off now, does it? Testified that Hunter Biden put then Vice President on speakerphone during a business meeting. Over 20 minutes, Archer testified that Joe Biden was put on the phone to sell the brand. I don't know what this like. Okay. These phone calls include a dinner in Paris with a French energy company, and in China. Okay. Archer acknowledged that then president had coffee with Jonathan Lee, CEO of BHR, in Beijing. Archer confirmed Joe Biden was referred to as my guy. Well, yeah, it's kind of his dad. Do you know how many my guys there are in my friend circle? Spring of 2014, Vice President attended a business dinner with his son, Hunter, an associate. So, dinner? It's just, if there was something more damning, I feel like we would see it. But there isn't now, is there? It's just kind of a lot of speculation. Yeah.
Post Millennial.
think this is it. Former business partner says Hunter Biden
the
sold
former-
illusion of access to Joe Biden.
Former
Source
business,
says.
former
That
business
is-
partner says. Source says.
That is so ridiculous.
That's hilarious.
What? Former business partners.
We got a source saying a former. Yeah.
Oh.
A couple.
Well, yeah, if it hasn't been released to the public and you would like to know what the interview sounded like, you're going to get a source. I mean, it's like silly wording, but yeah, that is kind of, it's not the first time you've ever seen it.
Degrees of separation.
Right,
I'm
that's
surprised they
some
published that.
Plausible deniability right there. Yeah, we know.
Um,
It is like Tim, as you were doing your mafia metaphor. It's like if the mob member was like, "Hey, we got a job for you, but before you go, you're gonna take my son along." Like, how is that not mafia interference with the guy's son?
Also, Joe Biden never asked. First of all, in that analogy, Joe Biden would be asking Burisma, hire my son, maybe I do X. But there is no evidence to actually back that up. It's just he works somewhere. He's related to the vice president. He kind of used that connection to, what's the word? Gain a little bit of influence in the company, maybe. But that's kind of it, right? Like, all right. Like, again, the analogy breaks down the minute that you actually start to graft it onto the topic and onto the facts of the case. Joe Biden, at the end of the day, did not ask for Hunter Biden to be given a job at Burisma. Like, he just got it, probably because they wanted a connection to the vice president. Because any business, this is how, like, all business works. A lot of these kinds of businesses, like, especially in the United States, how many U.S. businesses have former senators on their boards, former Congress people, presidents even? How many of them? And why do you think they're there? Do you think it's because any of these people are, like, knowledgeable on the topics or in the businesses that they're involved in on the boards of? No, it's because they have connections. What we're talking about is connection trading, which, yeah, it's like it's not great. I don't love it, but it's not illegal, and it certainly doesn't seem like, again, we have any evidence that there was ever any quid pro quo, that there was ever any do this and I do this. There was always just, hey, we hired you. Can you get us in the room with your dad maybe? And like, he was like, oh, here, I'll put you on speakerphone. And like, let's go, or like, oh, we're at dinner or whatever. But again, there's no evidence to show that there was any policy change because of those interactions. And without that, there's nothing here to talk about. And again, all we're really describing either way, like, if you want to talk about government corruption, that's fine. But like, this is a case where Republicans only want to talk about this very specific case. Government corruption is rather rampant here in the United States. But somehow we've become, the Republican Party has become obsessed with government corruption from the White House, because it's the only time they're interested in corruption is when it's not committed by their members or their president. Like, come on. Is there any way to deconstruct this Hunter Biden shit for left and centrist populists who can't shut up about it, or is it a lost cause? It feels like it's just unfalsifiable conspiracy talk. Yeah, for the most part, yeah. It's like there's just like people who already, I think, believe that, like Joe Biden is corrupt because of Hunter Biden's business dealings. It's kind of like it's kind of like like, I'm trying to think of like an analogy. It's just that there's no there. Like, yeah, do I have, like, Joe Biden for decades was known as the senator from MBNA. I think it was MBNA. I always forget what the acronyms are. But like, and the reason for that is because he came from Delaware, a state where a lot of credit cards house their businesses, where they operate out of because of friendly tax laws. And for most of Joe Biden's career, he's been a very pro-corporate president. But like, we already know that. And that's corruption that's right there in the open. Republicans could go after him for his, corrupt business dealings with Visa, with MasterCard, with Discovery, with all of these people, with any number of anybody who tells you like, oh, I really care about like the Hunter Biden story because it's, it really like, it really like shows a lot of government corruption. Ask them like, wait a minute. You understand that this is something that every single senator, every single congressperson most likely participates in. Influence trading is the bedrock of like corporate and like high level business dealings. They all are friends with each other. They all hire each other. That's kind of how this works. Influence peddling. How many senators' kids get jobs because they're the senators' kids? Tons of them. It's not unique. It's not interesting. There's nothing fancy about this. It's just because it's Joe Biden, because Republicans want to pretend that they're populists, they would like to focus on this one incredibly narrow instance of possible corruption. If you actually care about corruption, then go talk about the campaign fund, the campaign donations that every senator is getting, every congressperson is getting. At the very least, not the progressive ones. But like, if you just want to focus on Hunter Biden, you just have an obsession. Like, you're not actually interested in the corruption. You're interested in the anti-Biden narrative. That's all it is.
The mob member's son. He's bringing his son along for the game
Well, it's
now.
like a guy-
Biden, this crackhead is all of a sudden invited along because he's
The
his
son of the boss goes to like a bunch of guys who are delivery guys or drivers or mules or whatever, and it's like, I want you guys to move all this product. My dad wants it done. They go, your dad doesn't want this done. This is your job. You're trying to upstage your. He's like, gets on the phone and says, hey dad, how you doing?
Like, notice the narrativization. What does any of this have to do with Joe Biden or Hunter Biden? It doesn't. But it's all there to give the viewer a narrative in their head to frame everything that's happened, and they just kind of melt the facts of the story into the narrative. You build the narrative and then you kind of like make everything fit into that narrative. That's why they do so much narrativization.
And then his dad's like, everything's going good, son. He's like, yeah.
Because if
I'm
they
here with the
actually
boys.
had a
They're
direct
saying
link,
everything's good,
they
right,
just
boys?
say it.
So he didn't talk shop, but come on.
Well,
We know exactly what that was.
Well, but I agree. Like, even if you're doing that, it's still fucked up.
Like, if this dude Devin Archer is like, yeah, he didn't talk shop. Do you notice what does Tim Pool say? Come on, he didn't talk shop, because there's no convincing him. There's no convincing these people. There isn't a, hey, a guy in the room said they didn't talk about this. They go, well, I think they're lying. And then you go like, wait. I thought you said that you wanted a witness from the room if there was somebody who could testify. Oh, was there direct quid pro quo? Because you were thinking, oh, if we just get somebody in the room to be honest, if we just get somebody in the room, they'll say, yes, there was a quid pro quo. Yes, Hunter Biden did it. Yes, it's connected to Joe Biden, yada, yada, yada. But he didn't. He didn't validate that. He just said they talked. They didn't talk shop. They didn't talk business. There were no changes to U.S. foreign policy. That's it. He just like that's it. And then what do? They just say, oh, well, he must be lying, or oh, I don't, sure, whatever, sure. I still think that they obviously talked business, because there's no getting him off of it.
But like, that isn't even what Biden was doing. Like, Joe is clearly more involved than that.
Yep.
What's like the
And how do
dirtiest
you know?
stuff he was doing? Do you have the data?
On
The quotes or like any specific, like the
Sometimes
three
this
most corrupt
dude-
things that he
Sometimes this dude really like asks the right question, but a lot of times he kind of a bitch baby.
did that we have like documented proof of or extreme amounts of evidence.
well, I guess I don't know, like, policy, like which policies arose from it. I just mean like
there
the
were
text. I don't know if there's anything that originates actually from Joe, but it just like the text that Tim referenced earlier of Hunter saying,
that
Pops. He's talking to his
in
nephew or
the
his
room.
daughter or something. He's
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Pops takes 50% of all my
Yep.
shit. I'm not going to do that to you when you get older. So I mean, like, why would Hunter lie about that? You know what I mean? Like that. So it's
In private
Why does anybody lie? I don't know. Like what?
texts.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's one example. I guess we don't have here from New York Post how Joe responded to these guys need our help. But but there is a timeline. This was like,
Wait. So you're telling me that that Hunter Biden told Joe Biden, "Hey, you should, Dad, you should help these guys out. They need a little bit of help." But somehow you don't know the response. Is it because that the response is underwhelming, or because Joe probably went, "Whatever, dude. Like, oh, like this is so sad."
it was like
It was like
it was like a matter of weeks later that he gave that speech we played, and he got the guy fired. So yeah, I mean the
Again,
timeline lines up as well. Like, Dad, these
US
guys need our
foreign- that was
support.
US foreign
couple
policy.
weeks go by. Prosecutors fired.
I love that
The prosecutor getting fired was U.S. foreign policy. Stop talking about this. I'm so tired of hearing about this. This was not a Joe Biden initiative. This was already a decision made by the administration. I'm so sick. And this is the thing. They'll never hear that. I say that and it'll away. They'll never hear it. My mic will go mute when I say that, because that's the only thing they have is they're like, that was the policy change. Oh, it wasn't a policy change. That was the policy change. Like they'll just ignore it. They'll just ignore it because it's the only way for them to like have something mildly tangible to point to. That like, oh, there was this obvious quid pro quo. Oh, there wasn't. Oh, well, no, and they just never accept it. They never move on.
They're like, Joe was on the phone with Hunter's associates a couple dozen times for no reason.
Yeah.
He didn't talk shop. It's like, wait. 24 times on the phone with these guys? What were they talking about? Going golfing?
Where's that what Joe was or Hunter?
Well, I'd say that's about as likely as talking shop since you or I have no idea what the communications were.
Was.
Joe was on the phone, on speakerphone, over 20 times with Hunter Biden's associates. That's what Devin Archer testified.
Oh, wow.
So the question is like,
Also,
for what
associates
reason?
doesn't always
It's
mean
like-
business
Not associates.
Yeah,
associates.
exactly. Which is another reason that CNN article is ridiculous. Like, did they include that fact in there? Like, it was kind of just the illusion, but also they were on the phone 24 times.
I really do feel like unless
Well, it's kind of like it is the illusion if you've hired Hunter Biden in the hopes that he would get you access, and more specifically, hopefully he would he would earn you support from the vice president of the United States, like, and then you don't get any of that. You get to talk to Joe Biden, but like he doesn't really engage with you in the way that you want. Then yeah, that's kind of, we hired you with the assumption that like you'd help us out, and we've kind of just wasted our time talking to this guy.
the Democrats decide that they're going to replace Joe Biden for as
Oh my God, what
running
is
for
this
president as the
80-year
candidate, I
smoker
don't think that
talking
there's
about?
anything that's going to happen, no matter what the evidence comes out, no matter who says anything, because I think Merrick
What
Garland
evidence?
is incredibly corrupt. I don't think that he's going
You
to.
got some evidence to go
I
with
think
that?
he's going to protect the Bidens as much as possible, and
Mhm.
and it sucks to be so black-pilled.
He's gonna protect the Bidens, even though there's like a hearing going on right now where they interviewed a business associate. The Republicans haven't shut the fuck up about Hunter Biden for like 4 years. Yeah, he's totally protecting them. Yeah. Really shit job Merrick Garland's done then.
But really, I mean, the evidence is overwhelming that it's worth having hearings about, and you know, you can barely get, and Democrats don't even want to, you know, hear the evidence. So I hate the fact that I'm black.
Unfortunately,
I love
it
that,
doesn't
that
exist.
you think they are going to replace Joe Biden?
Like the other dude mentioned this. He was like, "Do you have a quote? Do you have something like that links it, something direct?" And dude's like, it's just not there. Like, why would I listen to you when you're just saying and then linking random random decisions that are made to, and tying them together through, I don't know, fucking fairy dust. Like,
No, I said unless they're going to,
unless
they start to really like wind up Gavin Newsom or whatever.
Okay.
I love that Harry Sisson guy.
yeah, he's not running.
Because
Gavin,
he's like
Gavin
20,
Newsom's not running.
But he's got the education of like a third grader.
It's the
And I'm not saying to be mean. I'm saying quite literally, he tweeted out that, was it Alito? Supreme Court said that Congress has no authority to regulate them, and he was shocked by it. And I'm like, bro, we learned that in like second grade. It's called the branches of government. They're
Wait, what? Wait, the interpretation of who can impose like checks and balances to each branch of government. First of all, you didn't learn that because that decision came out like what, in 2000 and God, when was that? 2003 maybe? I don't remember when Alito came out with that decision, because I know that's a kind of more recent one. But yeah, we don't. Did Tim Pool learn that the judicial branch is the one branch that can't be checked or balanced by other branches? Like, what? Nowhere in, we have a system of checks and balances is there like except for the judicial branch that, you know, Congress is not allowed to check them in any possible way. Like, what?
they're all equal branches of government. They have no power over each other. They have degrees of power over each other for checks and balances.
Yep, correct that.
That's about it. But he really doesn't get it. And then he recently posted a photo. I bring him up because he posted a photo.
Ethics standards would be a check you impose on the judicial branch, considering every other branch needs and has ethics standards.
Joe Biden looking horrifying.
Oh, yeah.
And he was like, he looks so cool. It's like, dude,
How much did he
you know,
pay
I got to
for
be
that?
honest. If you're like,
Dark Brandon.
if you're a Gen Z dude and you're following that guy and
I'm gonna
you
be fine with your
agree
jokes.
that flabby
not sure about
skipping
Dark
leg day Joe
Brandon.
Biden is cool looking. Oh, I'm sorry, man.
The Harry Sisson thing's interesting. It's him and his buddy. They just kind of appeared out of nowhere, and they're like these young,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
kind of good-looking, like young guys, and they do that frenetic thing where they do this a lot, like the Dash Dobrowski thing. But it caught on, I guess. It's like a meme.
Yeah, I was just
energy
trying to
now.
find the clip now. There's a hilarious one where he's just like frantically like,
All right, so we're done with the actual substance then. Okay, well, let's wrap up really quickly. Let's be really, really clear. Let's summarize this. No amount of evidence that doesn't validate Tim Pool's position that Joe Biden is corrupt and that he's engaged in business dealings with his son Hunter Biden. No amount of evidence to the contrary will ever move Tim Pool's position, because Tim Pool has already decided that he doesn't like Joe Biden, and Joe Biden's somehow more corrupt or uniquely corrupt compared to literally every one of his contemporaries in government. It is a position of idiocy, and one where that kind of lays bare, I think, the actual concern for corruption that Tim has, which is not at all. If Tim was actually interested in corruption, he'd be interested in all of the corruption from Democrats and Republicans. But he hyper focuses on this very specific element or very specific story of corruption, because guess what? Hunter Biden is only Joe Biden's son. He's not everybody's son. So if you only want to focus on corruption that involves Hunter Biden because, I don't know, you have some kind of weird obsession with the guy, then you can pretend that you care about corruption when all you actually care about is Hunter and Joe Biden. That's it. If you actually care about corruption, you'd actually talk about corruption. So, the thing that they tell, like at the end of all YouTube videos where they tell you to like click on one of these like things to watch more videos. Yeah, I've been meaning to film one of those. So that's what I was doing. I was just setting it up to film one.